Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxson, your host, here with you, along with my brother Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
And Mr. Mark Brew.
How y'all?
And this week on the show, we are going to be going back in time to 1987 to review AWA SuperClash II. And it probably won't be quick, but it will be fun to review this show. And speaking of being quick, I'm going to be quick here at the beginning of the show. I have a little rant. We don't have to spend a bunch of time on it, but I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about like 70% of the internet wrestling community
is losing their fucking mind.
They I don't think they read. And listen, they don't. Okay, they read, but they don't read the right things
for comprehension.
Example. This past week, Vince McMahon back in power. Stephanie McMahon resigned. And then as we record this, late last night, some goober on the internet says that WWE is selling to Saudi Arabia. So then the internet explodes because some goober on Facebook or some goober on Twitter, not a journalist. That's the other thing that bothers me is social media makes it where everybody thinks they're a journalist. Like whenever there's a story in wrestling, there's a bunch of douchebags like reporting it like they're Walter Cronkite or something. It's like, you're a dude on Facebook. Okay. That's why I don't do a lot of reporting of news on our pages and stuff. I do some opinion, but that's why I don't report news, because I'm not a news reporter. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a wrestling news person. Anyway, I'll get to my point. So they read this and they're exploding about it, right? And the biggest issue, the reason I say they read the wrong things and don't read the right things, is if they would take the time to read, I don't know, a book or the news once in a while, instead of just reading some dude on Facebook, they would realize that they were outraged about WWE, which they didn't, but selling to Saudi Arabia on Facebook, which Saudi Arabia also owns some of. And they were probably outraged on Twitter, which Saudi Arabia also owns some of. And I'm sure afterwards they sat down and they played an EA Sports video game, which Saudi Arabia also owns some of. I'd like everybody to research all of the things that Saudi Arabia owns some of and throw all of those things away. And then you can talk to me about Saudi Arabia owning the WWE. I'm just saying, read before you speak. That was my rant. I was like, come on, seriously? They already own, like they own parts of Uber. They own parts of most of the places you get gas from. It is what it is. In the modern world, the Saudi Arabians own a bunch of stuff, and you just got to get over it.
Did you read my joke that I posted on our page?
I don't think I saw it.
Mark, did you see it?
No.
I don't give a shit because I don't really watch it anyway. But I was like, oh, everybody's mad about, like, guys when they get released, they're gonna get like they get mad when wrestlers get released and they got like a 90-day no complete clause and they can't use their name. Now, when they get released, they're gonna get beheaded.
Shit's getting deep.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like I was on Archie's show this week.
When Saudi Vince goes, we're gonna have to make some cuts. Everybody's gonna be like, "Holy shit, Saudi Vince!"
Gonna lose my hand.
Put that samurai sword down, fucker.
I was on Archie's show this week because we discussed the whole thing, and I think at the end of the day, most likely WWE probably sells to Saudi Arabia, to NBC. NBC is to me the most potential buyer, just because they have so many deals already in existence with WWE, and for them as a company, it makes much more sense if they say, all right, we spend $4 to $5 billion, or we spend $4 to $5 billion and just buy this company outright, instead of every 5 years having to spend X amount of money on television rights.
Yeah, but then too, you got to work in how they're gonna juggle that with all the sporting events and all that they put on.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they could figure it out. You know, they do with the network and the PLEs and everything. That was my biggest thing. I don't give a shit who owns WWE as long as I still have access to the library. I really don't care.
NBC buying it, it would be like Mark was kind of what Mark was saying with like juggling their sports things. They're doing that now with Peacock. Like I don't watch the NFL, but I get on there and then I get on the I get on the Peacock or whatever, and I'll see they have like NFL streaming, and they'll have like whatever the soccer whatever, like when the World
MLS, yeah,
they had all that shit streaming, but you could still click on and see like WWE was streaming their shit. I think it would just be NBC's it's the one that makes the most sense.
Makes the most sense. It's the easiest transition. They've done business with WWE for years, through the USA Network. NBC Universal owns USA. So to me, my prediction, and I could be wrong. Again, I'm not a journalist. I have no inside scoop whatsoever, and I don't pretend to. But just to me, that one makes the most business sense. It seems the most logical.
Or we could be getting trolled, and then Vince comes out. Who bought the WWE? It was me, Austin.
It was me, Austin. And I mean, he could very well sell it to nobody and take it, or take it private before he sells it. I mean, he could do that too. So there's any number of options on the table.
But whatever he's doing with it, it's not what they want him to do with it, because
he's getting sued by shareholders now.
Yeah, and I know we're not here talking about modern shit, but I was more shocked that Steph quit than when Vince.
I wasn't, because before he had to resign, she was already doing that. She came back kind of in emergency capacity, so it didn't really shock me that much.
But I get that, but what I'm just saying is her going, fuck it, I'm done. It's like I never, because she's always been super defensive of her dad in public. You know what I mean? And this is her basically saying, how do I want to say it? It's like her basically saying, I don't have any faith in what my dad's doing now. Like he's gone off the rails, and I'm just going to disconnect myself from him. That's what she's doing. And how many years has she just been totally supportive of her dad, no matter what weird ass thing that he says or did or whatever, for her just to be like, I'm gone.
And the craziest thing about her, one of the craziest things about her leaving is, okay, she leaves. So even if there is a sale, she won't be in any kind of an executive capacity. And then either Vince is going to get his money and go, or he's going to get his money and hang around till he dies. But either way, once Vince is gone, that will mean that we will have a WWE for the first time ever without a McMahon involved. So unless you count Hunter as a McMahon, but I don't. I count him as an in-law, and that's fine. But it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold.
I don't know. He may have done enough favors to be a McMahon.
Speaking of out-of-touch promoters, we're going to go back to the American Wrestling Association, the AWA, promoted by Vern Gagne by 1987. Totally out of touch is Vern Gagne. And it is SuperClash II, May 2nd, 1987, at the Cow Palace. And boy, Ron Trongard won't let us forget that. And I'll get into that in a little bit. With an attendance of
Ron Trongard shit.
With an attendance of 2,800 at SuperClash. And the AWA, out of all the old school promotions, is probably the one that I have watched the least of. I've watched some of the stuff, but it's not like Mid-South or Memphis or old WWF or NWA, WCW, where I watch it multiple times. Like this AWA SuperClash II, this may have been the first time I've ever even watched it.
I'd never laid eyes on it until Mark was like, the thing I want to watch the most is SuperClash II. Never seen it.
I like how you made that interesting there, Aaron. Until Mark was like, "That's the thing I want the most." I was intrigued, y'all. I was told pick a number, and I picked the number, and this is the damn result.
He was bamboozled, hoodwinked.
I was playing tiddlywinks with a bear, and then this shit happened.
Everybody knows, having listened to the show in the past and me talk about him, how much I am not a fan of Rod Trongard, the announcer for this AWA show. He is here in full force, bouffant in full force.
Can I say it's a simple note, but how I feel about the AWA, and then you mentioned it when you said out of touch, Vern Gagne or whatever. AWA seems like every time you watch it, not even just the promotion and the style that they do, but even their crowd is like a decade after what it is. Like, this is 1987, and I feel like I'm watching wrestling
from the 70s,
from 1977. And I'm looking at the crowd, and I'm like, even the crowd looks like 1977 people.
Yeah,
like,
people are just smoking.
Yeah, I saw like dudes with like Coke bottle glasses, like, and with like the big black rims out there, and they're in fucking LA, or not LA, but they're in California, where fucking people are ahead of their time.
If you rub an ashtray from 1974, the genie comes out looks like Stanley Blackburn.
It's like everything they do just looks 10 years behind the time.
Yeah, I mean, watching it, I got that whole old school finish feel and all that. I mean, to me, it wasn't a terrible watch. Few matches definitely I could have did without having to see any of, but.
And Trongard is joined on commentary by Ray the Crippler Stevens, who obviously is an AWA legend.
Well, that's later, not right away.
Oh yeah. But the opening match for this
on that. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. The opening match for this show, everybody's favorite pedo, Buck Zumhoff, is in the house, and he faces General Adnan Al-Kaisi. For those of you that are not familiar with Adnan before going to the WWF as General Adnan with Sergeant Slaughter, he was quite the accomplished wrestler. And actually, I will recommend to anybody one of the best most interesting wrestling biographies. He had a very interesting life. He actually was friends with Saddam Hussein.
Had to get the fuck out. Like,
yes,
I got to go.
Yes.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
They brought in American wrestlers to wrestle him in Iraq to like entertain the people, and placate them, because that's obviously a dictatorship or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he has a very interesting life and story, and I'm not going to diss him even as a wrestler. He was an effective, Arab heel.
Didn't at one time he played a Native American?
Yes, he was Billy White Wolf in the WWF.
And that's when he got over here. He became Billy White Wolf because he didn't want that heat or whatever. But like over there, it was like, I think he even if I remember the book right, he was friends with Saddam, and then Saddam like wanted him to be like a stand-in for him, because he's like, they're gonna try to kill me.
Yes,
you are gonna be my guy to stand in for me, because
you'll be my body double.
Yeah, and he was like, fuck, I gotta get out.
I don't want no parts of this shit, dog. I'm out.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not hating on Adnan, but this is a bad match.
It is, and they did a lot of stalling. It was boring, and we don't have to get too much into butt piece of shit zoom off.
Yeah, we've dissected the shit out of him. I think I've got his ear over here somewhere. So
I will say though, the finish did make sense.
I didn't write the finish down. I just wrote
What?
Adnan goes over in a bad match. I usually write the finish down, but I didn't even write the finish down. Remind me.
He went over by pulling the trunks, or no, it was the feet on the rope on Bugs him off.
Okay, yeah, and it makes sense. He's a heel, and Zumov should lose every match he's in. So everything
And nothing
about
makes me happier than watching Triple H spike that fucking cunt right on his fucking head.
pedigree into a pile driver.
Like,
if you've never seen
I
it, folks, look it
never
up.
have ever, and I said I didn't want to talk about it, but like I said, I've never ever wanted to watch a wrestler get hurt, but watching Triple H punt, like spike that fucking head, that fucking piece of shit's head into the fucking ring every time, I'm like, yeah. and
I love you, Paul.
I just hope that the people that he worked with didn't know what he was doing. That's the only thing I hope for, is they didn't know what a fucking creep he was until Hunter fucking dropped him on his fucking divot head. Go ahead. Move on.
When I have one note here, because after the match, Zumov is raging, of course, about losing to Adnan, and he says, "Come on back here." And I do not know what he said. I couldn't make it out whether he said, "Come on back here, you jerk," or if he said, "Come on back here, you Turk."
It was probably the latter.
It's like, not even the right country, you moron.
It was probably come back here and jerk, because he's a fucking pervert.
And Adnan's like,
rag.
Sergeant Slaughter. The next matchup, and I wrote down here, this actually isn't awful. This was actually a pretty decent match. It is DJ Peterson against the Super Ninja with Mr. Go.
You want me to tell you what my
What is
favorite?
it, Mr. Go or Ninja Go? Because the announcer, who looks like a fucking Goomba, like he looks like an extra from the fucking Sopranos or whatever.
We need Archie here for this conversation, but yeah, he's MIA.
The announcer goes Super Ninja with Mr. Go, and then retard Trongard calls Mr. Go Ninja Go. So
my favorite thing about the whole thing though is they're kayfabing it that these guys are from the Orient or whatever, and then they're clearly white guys.
Super Ninja was actually Japanese because I googled him,
but the manager guy was clearly a white guy.
Mr. Go, yeah. Because I remember, I distinctly remember. I remember when they introduced Super Ninja. He was at first aligned with Larry Zbyszko, and I can't even fathom that I remember that, but I do remember at some point seeing something where he was aligned with Larry Zbyszko. Like Zbyszko brought him in to be his heavy or something. But
yeah, that was cool shit, because that was when like Zbyszko was wearing a gi and had his little fucking headband on and shit. That was fun shit. But yeah, like the announcer announces him as Mr. Go, and then Trongard, or Retard Guard is what I'm going to call him. Retard Guard says he's Ninja Go, but I'm like, nah, Mr. Go is a better name.
Yes, and that's what I call him, Mr. Go. Sounds like a it actually doesn't sound like a villain from a Mega Man game. I got you now, Mega Man. Does. I am Mr. Go. By the way, those games were hard as fuck.
Yeah, they were one of the most aggravating platformers you could play.
Like I've tried to play them as an adult, and I think I was actually better at them as a kid than I am as an adult, because I'm like, I don't want to play this anymore. I feel like I stink.
Right. Like that and Trent, what was that one game? Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
That's a pain in the ass too.
The hardest game I've ever played. I know we're getting into something anyway. The hardest game I've ever played was Ninja Gaiden for the original Xbox.
Good God.
There is a boss fight in that game that is so hard because you literally you can't, you're just running around this little area and you don't even, unless you accidentally stumble upon it, there's like a little crater that you can go into in the wall to avoid your opponent, but unless you stumble upon it, you can't even see it. Like that's how hard that game is. It's like I just keep dying and dying and dying, and then I actually survive by accident.
Well, we know what happened. You read the strategy guide.
I
online.
probably did at the time. At the time, I worked at GameStop, and those strategy guides would be like
lifesavers.
Well, no, but after like 6 months, because you don't want to have too much stock on them, and it's retail, so they send you too much of everything. They would have us mark those down and throw them away. So I still to this day I have so many strategy guides from like the early to mid 2000s that I just took from the store because it's like I'm not going to throw it in the dumpster. Maybe one day in 2046 this will be worth some money.
It'll be vintage.
That's why I can only really play sandbox games like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. Because, Nate, I'm going to ask you this. Have I ever been known for my patience?
No.
Aaron, for the short time that we've been doing podcasts together, hell, I could have answered that one.
I've been told I have no patience. And unless it's a kid or a dog, I have no fucking time for anything. So I can't play a fucking game where I'd have to run around a room and find a fucking nook. Jesus Christ. It's like I'm going to throw this through my fucking television screen.
Well, this match, DJ Peterson and Super Ninja, actually goes to a 15-minute time limit draw. And again, I mean, it wasn't Flair and Steamboat, but I didn't mind this match. It didn't, nothing about it was offensive. I thought it was fine.
I found something offensive.
Of course.
And it wasn't in their work. It was Super Ninja's gloves. Did you notice the thing that, like, his gloves? Did you notice it?
Not really.
Nobody else noticed his gloves?
The only thing I noticed was at one point Tron Guard says something about him not having tape on one hand.
No, his gloves had like it had I don't think it wasn't, but they did like a cross thing on his gloves, and his gloves looked like a swastika.
I bet they were probably going for a ninja star and screwed that
probably
up.
What they were trying for, but I'm like, he got a swastika on his gloves.
He borrowed it from the German gimmick that was on the dark match that we didn't get to see.
I'm like, fucking Super Ninja, or is he Super Nazi? He had fucking swastikas on his gloves. Go back and watch it, guys.
Well, I'm never going to watch this again.
Swastikas.
The other note that I have here, and this is, I guess, where it started. I really started noticing it. How many times is Ron Trongard going to say Cow Palace in San Francisco during this friggin' show?
And how
I have written down here, you should turn this into a drinking game. Every time Trongard says Cow Palace, do a shot. You'll be blitzed by the main event.
I figured you'd be.
Hank, that's what he said.
I said, I figured you'd be blitzed by the second match.
Just having to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to Trongard getting fucking smacked down a little bit here in the next match.
Holy shit, you're right, Aaron.
Up next, it is.
Did you see what did you look at what I saw?
Yeah, hold on.
Take a screenshot of it and send it to Nate.
Hold on. One second. Window.
The next matchup, but as Mark is going to send me the picture of the swastika gloves.
Oh no, I'm sharing the screen.
Oh, okay. All right, let's take a look here.
I am that technologically advanced. Look at
Zoom
it right.
I can't zoom in on it, but I can't because we're looking at Mark's screen. Zig Heil, Mr. Go.
You see it?
Love.
Yes.
Aaron's right. It's a damn swastika.
It's a swastika.
It's a super Nazi.
I'm guessing they were going for the ninja throwing star, but it completely missed.
Yep, definitely correct there. I just thought of Cotton Hill. He's a super Nazi. I love it when Good Hank is born. One of my favorite things in the history of King of the Hill is when Good Hank is born and like Cotton's so proud, he's holding this baby and he's like, you want to go kill a Nazi? You want to kill a Nazi? I just think that when he's baby talking his baby about killing Nazis, I love it. It's great. All right, so the next matchup on this show.
I'm glad you guys got to see the Nazi gloves because I'm like, it was distracting during that match. But we had to watch that fucking thing for a time limit draw. That was my only hate on it. Was it went that should not have been a time limit draw match.
No, they could have saved that for one of the matches we're gonna get to later.
And the only other thing I'll say about that match is that DJ Peterson guy wasn't the most technically sound wrestler in the world, but he was put together, and I think it's a little weird that he never got called up. Because I knew he died.
Appearance wise, he kind of reminds you of maybe a little better toned Scott Casey.
See, I thought, but what I thought was he's a more jacked up Magnum.
Yeah, I can see that too.
And I thought, it's like, man, why didn't that guy ever get called up? And I shouldn't say called up, but you know what I'm saying. Like, why didn't he ever make it to Vince? And I thought, like, I knew he was dead. So I'm like, maybe he died he died in like 93. So I just thought it was kind of crazy that guy never made it bigger than what he was. But he was a good, solid, good looking, built baby face. And I don't see anything wrong with the match. That's all I was going to say.
Well, up next, we have Sherry Martel, the AWA World Women's Champion, with Doug Summers. I think at this point, Buddy Rose has gone back to Portland, I believe. But she is facing Medusa Michelli. And, of course, these two are going to have a decent match together.
Yeah. And this is where I get into Ron Trongard being a fucking idiot.
As if we didn't catch that by how many times he's done said Cow Palace.
and it's not even a cow. Well, he does kind of talk about Cow Palace, but now he's sitting next to Crippler Ray Stevens. Okay. And he's sitting next to Ray Stevens, who is wrestling royalty. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Dave, am I wrong?
Oh, no.
And this fucking idiot brings up the Cow Palace again and starts talking about some fucking basketball fuck and how this basketball fuck is done. I think his name was like Bill Simmons or Summons or whatever the fuck he brings up. And how this fucker is basically like Cow Palace royalty, and he's talking about basketball, and he's sitting next to Ray Stevens, and Ray Stevens goes, "Hey, Trongard, I sold this place out with the biggest wrestling match ever in the Cow Palace," and Trongard's like, "I wasn't aware of that. Who'd you wrestle?" He's like, Pepper Gomez. He's like, oh, Pepper Gomez? Okay. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it would have been funny if he would have reached over there and slapped the shit out of him.
Like that's what he wanted to fucking do.
Like, hey, screw that. We're at a wrestling event.
Yeah, because I mean, there isn't a lot of footage that I've ever seen, so I just take people's word for it. Like historian George Shire, who's very, very knowledgeable about the AWA, and people that talk about, you know, California, like obviously the Cow Palace, but anyway, regardless, there isn't a lot of footage you can find on it, and I wish I could, because there are literally people that lived through it that will tell you that Stevens and Bockwinkle were the greatest tag team of all time. Yeah. But there's not enough footage out there. You know what I mean? Like, I can watch the Hart Foundation for 24 hours straight, or I can watch, you know, the Rockers or what, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just not enough of Stevens and Bockwinkle, and that's unfortunate.
It is. But like, what I'm saying is, like, Ray Stevens is sitting next to this fucking schlub, and he's like, "Oh, Bill Simmons played basketball here. What do you think about that, Ray Stevens?" And he's like, "Fuck you. Like, you're putting over fucking basketball? This is fucking wrestling." And then and Trongard's trying to like sell that he's like this fucking wrestling commentator. And Ray Stevens is like, "Yeah, I sold this fucker out with Pepper Gomez, 18,000 people, more than they put in there." And Trongard's like, "Oh, I wasn't aware of that." And then through the entire rest of the show, through the rest of the show, every single match, Trongard's like, "Are you aware that Ray Stevens sold this out with Pepper Gomez?" Like, he keeps mentioning it after that. So I want to imagine that when they went to like an intermission, fucking Ray Stevens slapped that motherfucker in the face.
Quit putting that shit over. This is wrestling.
Because like through the rest of the show, he's just like, "Oh yeah, Ray Stevens sold this out with Pepper Gomez." The rest of the fucking show,
he's like, I want to share some new information I just learned 17 minutes ago. I don't know who's worse, Trongard or Ed Whalen. I don't know who's worse.
Trongard. At least Ed Whalen had fucking knowledge of the business.
It's a ring-a-ding-dong dandy.
I wasn't a big Ed Whalen fan. I'm not a big Ed Whalen fan. But Ed Whalen at least understood what he was talking about and respected the wrestling business. I don't think Ron Trongard had any respect for the wrestling business.
Well, like I said, the match here that we were discussing, Sherry Martel, the World Women's Champion, with Doug Summers against Medusa Michelli. The match is fine. It is what it is. Sherry gets the win off a distraction from Doug Summers. Doug Summers is a guy that if he would have been built better, I think would have been a bigger name. You know what I mean? Like, because he in the ring, he was fucking good. Him and Buddy Rose both. I mean, he was really good. Yeah, but I just think he looks like a bigger Eric Embry. Like he doesn't have the, I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say Eric Embry. Like, to me, and I know this guy had a bigger career than Doug Summers, but it was a different era. To me, Doug Summers is like a Jimmy Golden.
Right.
You know, like he's a territory guy that could work and whatever, but just didn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, anytime you ever saw him on WWF television, he was just doing jobs. Like he did jobs for WWF in the late, probably like 90 through the early days of Raw, you know, but he never got a shake.
Yeah. And you can't say a guy's bad even if he looks like shit.
Oh no, I'm not at all.
I'm not saying you're saying it. What I'm saying is, like, you can't say a guy, like, somebody can't be like, "Oh, Doug Summers sucked." Like, really? he fucking kept up with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty when they were 22 fucking years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, don't tell me that guy fucking sucked. He made those guys the talents that they are now, you know, or were, because we're going to talk about Marty in a little bit, but there was a point where those were some of the best fucking wrestling matches in America. Was him and Buddy versus the Midnight Rockers.
At that point, it was probably the only interesting thing on the AWA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like this match. I'm not like a huge female wrestling fan now, but 70s and 80s female wrestling was entertaining to me because they looked like they could kick the shit out of the dudes. You know what I mean? The dudes in my thing is, like, if this person looks like they could kick the shit out of the person in the crowd, they belong in the ropes. And these two bras, they look like they could kick the shit out of anybody outside of the ropes.
Sherry, it's funny. I don't want to get into a big dissertation here, but you mentioned women's wrestling, so I'm just gonna let me flow with this for just a minute. Sherry is one of my favorite wrestling personalities of all time. She's amazing. I'm not a huge fan of her in the ring, okay? And that's not dissing her. She was fine. But you saying being believable. And I also, everybody knows I always say this, I do not pretend to watch Japanese wrestling because I don't. And I know a lot of guys who are from like this era of wrestling will talk about the All Japan women, like they had that heyday for a couple of years in the late 80s, and I'm sure there's great stuff. I'm sure it was great. But I don't know any of it. So don't judge me here either. But to me, my two favorite women's wrestlers, Mickie James comes in a distinct third, but my two favorite women's wrestlers of all time are the two opposite sides of the coin to what you were saying, Aaron. The first one is exactly what you were saying. She's big. She looks like she can kick your ass. She has high impact shit that she does, and it's Bull Nakano. Bull Nakano is my favorite women's wrestler of all time. Okay. But then my second favorite is the opposite. And she's someone that I know we've discussed on the show, I think, before, but she's someone that I didn't think was going to be for shit and wound up being the best WWE women's wrestler of all time. Because Bull Nakano is more Japanese. I know she was in the WWE for a minute. But anyway, it's Trish Stratus. And I know it's two sides of the coin, but there's just those two women to me. Those are my two favorite female, and Mickie James. I love Mickie James, but Trish Stratus and Bull Nakano are my two favorite women's wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, Mickie James is the complete package of hot chick. She's hot. She's a hot chick. Just saying, I gotta drink her bath water, but she can work and looks believable. And I understand what you're saying about Trish and Bull, and I agree with Bull as being like an ass kicker, but mine would be Luna and Lita. Those are mine.
I'm with you on Luna.
Like Luna, I'd be like, oh Jesus Christ!
She just seemed like
drink, bitch.
Right here
down there. I will buy you a drink.
Here's the credit card.
Her
tab's on me.
And I will dare anybody, going back to Mickie, I'll dare anybody to tell me they're and this is again no Japanese wrestling involved because I don't watch it. I dare anybody to tell me there is a better women's program than Trish Stratus and Mickie James. That's my favorite women's feud of all time. And I know there's been a lot more in the modern era because there's a lot more women's wrestling, but Trish and Mickie is my favorite women's rivalry ever.
Yeah, I also enjoyed when the cat was with China.
For other reasons. It was the Attitude Era.
Exactly.
Like that, what is that? Say there's like that meme going around right now that shows the cat. And it's like the Attitude Era was wild. Like you turn on wrestling, you might just see a titty. You didn't know what was going to happen.
You know how many times me and my buddies would be sitting in our fucking in our living rooms trying to pause the fucking VHS tape of that fucking Armageddon thing, trying to see the cat's tits. Poor Slaughter got there with the fucking.
You're like Adnan Al-Casey. You're like, Damio something Slaughter.
Yeah. Like, we got to rewind a little bit. We want to see them titties.
Well, Sherry winds up winning this match against Medusa and retaining the women's championship. So then we go into the AWA World Heavyweight Championship match.
We got a shot before that.
What's that?
We got a camera pan before that.
Oh, well, you roll with that because I just
want
the match.
Because Tron Guard, fucking retard guard, the entire show has been talking about this amazing production crew that they have, and they pan the crowd, and this amazing production crew decides we're going to pan the crowd to show all the empty seats. This is the fucking Cow Palace.
What's funny is because you were talking about the numbers earlier, 2,800 for this event, and then Ray Stevens, what'd you say, 18 grand, 18,000?
18,000 people.
Right.
You can fit 18,000 fucking people into this place.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, let's pan the building.
It's pathetic. It's like I never understood why. When he knew how his business, and this is a different promotion, but he knew how his business was. Why in God's name? And I know you're stubborn, you're a wrestling promoter, you're hoping that something's going to. In those later years of wrestling Star Wars, why would Fritz still want to broadcast that show from Texas Stadium? You look pathetic. You look pathetic because you got a stadium and there's like 17 people in there.
But the difference between that is that you're in a stadium, okay? So if you only film the ring and the field.
But they didn't.
I know, but I know. But they did the same fucking thing with this goddamn Cow Palace. and like when because in this match, Medusa, who the only note I had other than what you guys talked about was fucking jacked at this point. Like she would look like a fucking athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always known Medusa was a talented performer or whatever. And was an excellent wrestler and athlete, but watching this, I'm like, fuck, that bitch was fucking an athlete in '87. Like there weren't a lot of chicks that looked like her.
Yeah.
But her chasing Doug Summers and Sherry away, and then the fucking camera panned, and it's like a sea of fucking empty seats. It's like, what the fuck were you thinking?
And to me, the hairstyle that she had on this event versus, when she was in WCW and when she did the whole Alundra Blaze thing, it really fit the gimmick. That's just my opinion on that.
I agree.
She had that wild, messy dude that you would expect from someone named Medusa.
Yeah, and a badass. Yeah.
Right.
All right, we are moving on to what I would call the main event of the show. I know it's not the last match on the show, but it is the AWA World Championship match. Nick Bockwinkle and Curt Hennig. Before the match starts, they rub the ashtray from 1974, and out comes Stanley Blackburn. Looks like he smells like Benson and Hedges and gin. He is here as the president of the AWA to yammer on about something. And then Larry Zbyszko comes out and wants to challenge the winner of this match. Larry, as always, is on point. I am a big Larry Zbyszko fan, especially. I love him as a wrestler, but I really love him on the mic. Larry's a highlight of any show he's on.
I got Paul Heyman vibes off of like, damn, I bet Paul Heyman watched this, and that's where he got his swag from. Was Larry Zbyszko?
No doubt, no doubt.
It made it more pimp that he and Nate. I know we talked about before when we were talking about WCW, like in like 80s, early 90s WCW, somebody who showed up in a tuxedo, and you're like, why is he in a tuxedo? But and you're like, it doesn't work. But Zbyszko, for some reason, showing up in that tuxedo fucking worked.
Yeah,
like he was pimp and he was an asshole, and it was great. Like he was like looking at the two biggest assholes in the AWA, Kurt Hennig and Nick Bockwinkle, and going, I don't give a fuck about anything that you fuckers are doing. I just want to beat either one of you. Like him yelling at those two and wanting to challenge them. It's like, does what I'm trying to say make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
it's basically like it doesn't matter what the hell y'all got going on. We got next.
it's all about Larry. It's all about Larry Land.
yeah.
But yeah, he makes do that he wants to challenge the winner, and he's going to stay out there at ringside during the match. In my notes, it's always good, like we say on Reliving the Extreme, when you don't have a lot of notes on something, because that means you're intrigued by it. My notes on this are great wrestling match, great pacing, and these guys are obviously two total pros. You have two of the greats in the ring. Kurt Hennig younger, he hasn't even reached his full potential yet, and he is going toe-to-toe with one of the best bell-to-bell pro wrestlers to ever walk the face of the earth.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of my notes too. It's a little different than what you said. Was like Kurt hasn't reached his full potential yet, which is correct. But what I put was, it is fucking insane how long Nick Bockwinkle went into his fucking career and never did anything bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't even say that about Flair. And I'm not knocking Ric Flair at all, because he's in my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. But fucking Bockwinkle was never fucking bad.
Yeah.
Like, he never missed a step. Even when he went into that fucking Starrcade 93, or sorry, not Starrcade, Super Brawl 93. Slamboree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry. Like, he was never fucking bad. That dude, and I know, like, there's the joke of a hashtag classy or whatever, but Bockwinkle was phenomenal his entire fucking career.
On a wrestler level, I'm not necessarily talking about personality, but on a wrestler level, to put it into for those of you that may be younger or haven't seen a lot of Bockwinkle, to put it into a modern wrestler, bell-to-bell wrestler perspective, of the modern wrestlers, probably the Nick Bockwinkle of his generation is AJ Styles.
I was going to say Dolph.
Okay, I can see that too, but I would just say, because AJ, you made me, when you were talking about somebody who you've never seen him, I've never seen AJ miss a step, and et cetera, et cetera. That's the first name that came to my mind of the modern era.
The only reason I said Dolph was because I don't think he's a guy that, like, AJ, everybody knows.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he's got fucking, he's on the truck and he's this and he's that and everything like that. But fucking Dolph doesn't get enough goddamn credit. And I don't think Nick gets enough credit. And not trying to be whatever, dumb or whatever. Like, the two things that I like more than anything are fucking professional wrestling and comedy. Okay? Like, I love professional wrestling and comedy, stand-up comedy. I think Nick Bockwinkle was the Norm Macdonald of comedy.
Of wrestling, you mean?
Yeah, the Norm. Yeah, he's the Norm Macdonald of wrestling. Thank you, Nate. Like all the other wrestlers know that this guy is the fucking best, and people outside might not know who that fucking person is, but every single wrestler knows that this fucking guy was the best.
Yeah,
And I've never seen him have a match that I didn't enjoy. And this match wasn't this match that they had. It was only 26 minutes, but it was a fucking clinic, and it looked great. Both of them did a great fucking job, and I'm not going to try to monopolize the conversation, but I'll let you guys go ahead. Sorry.
Like you were saying though, like he was great. I mean, if you look at some of the notable matches that he had knockdown dragouts in 83 with Wahoo McDaniel, and in 79 with Jumbo Saruta. So I mean, and you know, even his stuff with Flair and stuff, it was great. Like,
yeah, and he could adapt to his opponent.
Yep.
And like Aaron said, it was never bad. We could never look at anything. He's like Terry Funk. Like we talk about Terry Funk all the time. You can never see anything with Terry Funk that's bad, and you're never going to see anything with Nick Bockwinkle that's bad. And I mentioned the pacing of this match because the pacing's perfect, because they, like Aaron said, it's like 26 minutes long, and for 21 and a half minutes of the match, it's very much a catch as catch can kind of wrestling match. And then at the end, they do like 4.5 minutes of high spots. It's perfect. They do 4.5 minutes of high spots, near falls, et cetera, get you into who's going to win this thing. I have no idea who's going to win. And then it was perfect pacing. Larry Zbyszko then comes to ringside and to the apron. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the only thing Trongard ever did good in his life was do a callback of the fact that like a year earlier, these guys wrestled for an hour, and he made it. I want to make a. I want to give people credit where credit's deserved or whatever. Trongard made a good point of Bockwinkle wrestled this kid a year ago and it went an hour and he couldn't figure out how to beat him, and now he knows. You know what I mean? So it's like it took him a year, or it took him an hour to figure out, and now they're going back into this. But does that make sense?
Yeah. The finish comes. Larry Zbyszko comes to ringside, and Trongard kind of plays dope here. You know, he's saying something. He's saying something to Larry Zbyszko, or to Curt Hennig, and Zbyszko is really handing Curt Hennig a roll of quarters. The whole roll of quarters gimmick. Curt Hennig hits Bockwinkle with the roll of quarters, gets the pin. And another note that I have here, and we'll get into it also in the aftermath of the match. I don't know, because again, I've never intensely watched the AWA, so I don't know who was supposed to be the babyface and who was supposed to be the heel here. But regardless of who was supposed to be the babyface, the crowd wanted Curt Hennig to be the babyface.
Yep.
Because even though he had the heel finish here and everything, they are still cheering him.
I think it was the AWA thing, in that people were going to be behind Bockwinkle because he was like the baby face that's been there forever. But that crowd wanted to fucking, like, we've watched this fucking tired ass guy. And not saying Bockwinkle's a tired ass guy, but you know.
Yeah, they want somebody new.
Yeah, we want somebody new. This is the guy we want.
Well, there's the whole. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I have a question for y'all regarding Hennig. What was your favorite era of Kurt Hennig?
My favorite era of Kurt Hennig is my formative years when he was Intercontinental Champion, Mr. Perfect in the WWF.
When he had the coach with him?
More with when he was with Heenan. And then, so I'd say 90 through and then, into like his babyface run in 93 was probably my favorite.
I'd say that. Like him with like Genius and Bob. That's the best Kurt Hennig.
And then he was super entertaining. He was like one of the few entertaining things of WCW in like 99 with the West Texas Rednecks too.
The Rap is Crap song and all that.
Yeah, that was when he didn't give a fuck.
Right. But it was still fun. I mean, he was still,
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like that's when it was like the West Texas Rednecks on was when he was just like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Just pay me. But my favorite Kurt was I shouldn't even say it, but it might be blasphemous to say it, but I actually liked him and Genius better than him and Bobby.
I enjoyed him with the coach because that was some of my earliest wrestling memories was watching those super tapes and all when he'd have the coach out there ringside and all that damn whistle blowing and his little underhanded tactics. It just gave Perfect to me the most that more of a heel edge.
And then you think about it now, and I do sometimes. You were watching it then. And you see Kurt Hennig with his manager, the coach, and you don't even realize that the coach, his manager, is like one of the great wrestling heels of all time, John Tolis. Like, you go back now and you're like, that's John Tolis, man. He's a badass. But back then I was just like, the coach? Who's the coach with his whistle?
I liked Hogan. I liked Kurt breaking the belt. Like that's what pops in my mind with fucking Kurt. Like he's breaking the belt and then Hogan's holding the fucking broken belt and he's like, oh my god, brother, all that shit. That's my favorite Kurt.
But they come out, then they bring out Stanley Ashtray again, the AWA president. I love this ashtray gimmick. I'm sorry guys, I keep beating it to death. But kind of silly that so there's the controversial finish, the multiple referees, Zbyszko's in there, they're all bitching at each other and then they hold up the title.
Well, fucking Ashtray can't even hold up the title. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
He got out of the ring and Trongard's like, oh, this is all happening. And then you hear this boom.
Yeah. He just throws the belt. Yeah, he just threw the belt out on the floor.
Well, that's what Trongard says. He's like, oh, I think Ashtray just threw out the rope or threw out the belt, and it wasn't Blackburn trying to fuck. It wasn't Ashtray trying to throw out the belt. The old fucker couldn't do it. Like there were steps, and he just dropped everything.
Like I did too much coke back here. I can't hold on to nothing.
Well, like I said here, the people, they love Kurt Hennig no matter what the story is. There's a bullshit chant from the crowd after this is declared that the title is going to be vacant. And I did read ahead because, again, I am not of all the knowledge that I have of pro wrestling, AWA, like I always say, is the major promotion I have the least amount of knowledge on. So I read ahead on what happens after this. And like the next week, they wind up saying Hennig's still the champion. So they just held it up for the purposes of this show to create some intrigue, probably.
Lazy booking.
Yeah, lazy booking. And then we get lots of Ron Trongard here. This is the part, I think, Aaron, where he stands up in his bouffant has been
Yeah,
dented by his
picture.
headset. It's been
Yeah.
dented by his headset.
Like I saw it, I'm like, what kind of hat is that?
So he looks like one of the Golden Girls.
Thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a fuck.
That's what Ray Stevens was thinking.
But Trongard interviews Stanley Ashtray. He interviews Bockwinkle. He interviews Hennig. He interviews Zabisco.
Did that be the name of the show?
Stanley Ashtray.
Stanley Ashtray.
And once again, I wrote down in caps here, he says Cow Palace 2 more times. And this is where I came up with the idea for the Cow Palace drinking game. But yeah, just again, post-match interviews with the all the principals here involved.
But you were saying, Nate, where he brought up Cow Palace, and he keeps talking about Ray Stevens and Pepper Gomez. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that Trongard brought up like Bill Simmons and fucking San Francisco basketball, and then Ray Stevens is like, "I'm going to correct you. I sold this fucking place out with 18,000 people." So every single fucking match, she's like, Ray Stevens sold this thing out with Pepper Gomez. Like, I think Trongard was terrified. And I think Ray Stevens told him, you fucking retard. This is wrestling. It's not basketball. I sold this motherfucker out. Don't bring up Bill Simmons again. And so, like, every match, he brings up Ray Stevens selling out this fucking place.
Well,
Like, this dude got put in his fucking place in the middle of a show that he had no idea what he was doing.
what would have been?
This is what I'm saying makes sense.
Yeah, but what would have been really fun, Nate, is like right now if you had a live count on how many times he has said Cow Palace.
Like a ticker. Yeah.
Right.
Ding,
Like-
ding, ding, ding.
Like, retarded.
Oh, no, not a ding, a moo. He says it's Cow Palace. Every time he says Cow Palace.
Retard Guard is trying to pedal back the fact that he fucking insulted Ray Stevens, and Ray Stevens called him out on fucking national TV and was like, I sold this motherfucker out in 78 with Pepper Gomez, you fucking idiot. It's fucking great.
I was super excited when we got to the next match because I was like, wow. I don't know if I've ever even watched this show, but I'm like, oh, I get to watch the Rockers team with Ray Stevens. How cool is this? The next matchup on the show is the Midnight Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, and the Crippler Ray Stevens against Doug Summers, Kevin Kelly, and Buddy Wolf.
Yeah, this is pretty
for those of you that don't know, Kevin Kelly is not the portly announcer from
Snails.
The portly announcer, Kevin Kelly, as Vince McMahon probably would have called him. It's Kevin Kelly, and those of you that may not know, he actually played Nails in the WWF.
Yeah, and this in my notes. I think, like, Nails, Kevin Kelly, whatever you want to call him, shitty wrestler. He wasn't great, you know. He's a poor man's Dan Spivey, and that's saying
this is pre-roids, right?
well, no, he looks good here, but
so maybe just a little juice.
But that's actually in my notes, and you brought it up that he was Nails. So I'll just say it now. I said a lot of credit to Kevin Kelly for changing his image to work his gimmick. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because here, if you didn't know, would you know that guy was Nails? Like, if you looked at Nails and a picture of Mr. Magnificent Kevin Kelly, would you be like, oh, that's the same guy? You'd never think that.
No.
You
have no idea who I am, boss man.
Yeah. Wish they faked his voice.
Yeah, they altered his voice. The Buddy Wolf guy, I have no idea on his story. I don't know anything about this Buddy Wolf dude.
I don't know.
They call him the Hammerlock Hammer. It seems a little redundant.
The Hackensack Hammer.
Hackensack Hammer, yes. The Hackensack
That's
Hammer.
what they called him?
Yep.
I think I said the Mississippi Mud Butt. It's actually in my notes. It says the Mississippi Mud Butt Bully Wolf sucks.
Well, it says he was born in Blue Earth, Minnesota, USA. He died 11/07/2017.
So he's the Minnesota Mud Butt.
Yeah.
Minnesota Mud Butt. I thought he was.
You betcha, sure.
He was trained by Vern Gagne, and his nicknames was Beautiful Buddy Wolf and then Hackensack Hammer Buddy Wolf. And
Hackensack Hammer?
Yeah, that's a whole mouthful, ain't it? It sounds like he was a stand-in in the movie Halloween or something.
I think it would have been more fun if he was the Hacky Sack Hammer.
That's what I just
like he's just in the ring. No, he said a hack in the sack.
I just asked, was he the Hacky Sack Hammer and fucking
the hack in the sack hammer?
Like, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if he could have come, if he would have been in the ring while they're introducing him and he's doing the hack and sack, the hacky sack.
So here it says tidbits, right? But then it says this text is hidden because it's only available in German language. So the only people that gave a shit about him were the Germans.
Back to the Super Ninja again. But yeah, again, I was excited at their opponents, a 6-man team of Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels, of course, the Midnight Rockers, and Ray Stevens. And at this point in their career, Marty's better than Shawn.
Oh, definitely.
Agreed.
Marty Jannetty is one of those guys that you can legit say his own worst enemy, because until he just went down that downward spiral. I mean, I don't know who got fired more by WWF, him or Dustin Rhodes. But until he went down that downward spiral, Marty was, oh my God, he was so good.
That's actually in my notes. Is like it literally says in my notes, Marty Jannetty was so fucking good. And they're doing Ricky and Robert in this fucking match, and that fucking crowd is so goddamn into it. And like, if Marty, it's crazy to say about it because Shawn was fucking off the rails too, but if Marty would have just been a little less, he probably would have been the bigger star.
If he would have been a little less Marty Party. And honestly, when they broke them up in 92 or late 91 into 92, they had plans. They had plans for Marty. As far as those two went, they saw something in both of them as singles wrestlers, because you can tell that because then throughout the early 90s, 93, 94, 95, they kept giving Marty a chance and kept trying to push him because they saw the potential in him. But he was his own worst enemy. But this match is really good. The heel team is fine. They do a great job playing, like you said, Aaron, with the Rockers kind of playing the Rock and Roll Express role, with Ray Stevens being as good as he is as a veteran.
And Ray wasn't there to do anything. Ray was there because it was fucking San Francisco. It was the Cow Palace. It was a fucking name, and we're gonna rub this guy. It was them getting the rub off of the star that everybody knew. You know what I mean? Like, fucking, when these guys put this fucking match together, they were, I guarantee, all respectful to Ray. But they were like, oh, then Marty's going to do this bump, Shawn's going to do this bump, and then Kevin's going to do this bump, and Doug's going to do this bump. And it was doing all this shit. And I'm sure Ray was like, well, what am I going to do? And they were just like, just fucking.
Just be yourself.
And
no, he didn't ask them what he was going to do. He told them, you guys are going to work, and I'm going to go over.
He's the vet.
Because that's
here,
how this
you
shit
know.
works.
Right. You know that's how it went in the locker room. He's the vet. he's like, all right.
Like he walks past them smoking a cigarette going, what are you guys going to do out there before I get the pin? You know what I mean? Like there's no conversation. You're teaming with Ray Stevens. He's getting the pinfall, but you guys get to shine. That's how wrestling works or should work.
I'm going to be honest though, like through the whole Rockers thing, I was always a fan more of Marty, but as time progressed, I became a fan of Shawn. Like when he started doing the whole sexy boy gimmick and all that, and I started really enjoying him because like it wasn't hard to tell that was the same person.
Right.
Like he was saying with Nails, you know, you wouldn't look at Mr. Magnificent or whatever the hell it was and Kevin Kelly and then look at Nails and be like, that's the same person. You could tell that was the same person. I mean, even though there was no gimmick change, name change, or anything like that, I'm just saying, like, you could tell, even if they would have called him something else, you would have knew, hey, that's fucking Shawn Michaels.
Right. Like I said, decent match here. The win comes when Ray Stevens pins Doug Summers with a small package. And then we go to a big package.
That Doug Summers has a small package.
We go to a big package, and that big package is Jerry Blackwell. Jerry Blackwell, who for some unknown reason was over in the AWA territory.
Hold up. That wasn't Archie Mitchell?
He's not here to defend himself, god damn it.
That one's for him not being here. That wasn't Archie Mitchell when he had hair?
And now I'm picturing Archie with long hair.
We love you, Arch.
Jerry Blackwell against Boris Zukov here. Boris Zukov has the like the Mongols kind of hair in the back, whereas like
I wrote it down as Jerry Snackwell versus Boring Zukov.
Damn, that's even more hints that it was Archie.
Snackwell. Of course, Zukov is managed by Adnan Al-Kaisi because if we're the AWA, we want to confuse people.
And bring everybody out more than once.
The WWF's had a lot of success with Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. So let's put Zukov and Al-Kaisi together. Fun story about Jerry Blackwell.
This is before that, though. Right?
This is 87.
Bolsheviks were 88.
No. I said they're trying to confuse people by putting the Russian and the Iranian or the Arab together.
Okay, I thought you were trying to say that.
No. I'm talking about Sheik and Volkov.
Okay, I got you. Sorry.
No, that's all right. The interesting story here, for those of you that don't know, is there was a possibility Jerry Blackwell may not have been at this event because when Vince was doing his expansion of the promotion in 1984, Jerry Blackwell tried to get into the WWF. And they actually they were having tryouts for territory guys to come into the WWF. I think it was either 84 or 85, maybe right around WrestleMania time. And he left because the line was too long.
This was 87, right?
Well, no, what I'm saying is Blackwell was part of this lineup or whatever in like 84, 85. So he could have possibly been in the WWF. And never have been at this show, but that's the only story I know about Jerry Blackwell was he left a WWF tryout because he thought he was waiting too long to get his tryout, so he said "fuck it" and left.
Was that a real thing?
I know.
Yeah, I think Bret Hart tells the story in his book. Maybe Bret. It's in somebody's book.
Like his feet's hurt. Like he's like, my feet's hurt. I gotta go.
Well, he obviously has diabetes.
Hey, he's like, I got cankles going on here.
But yes, he showed up for a WWF tryout and left before he got his actual tryout because he was tired of waiting because there were so many people.
I do know in October of 87, he had a AWA World Heavyweight title match against.
I thought you were going to say in October of 87, he had a massive coronary.
No way that dude's not alive. Not dead. Jerry Blackwell is dead, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he died January the 22nd, 1995, at the age of 45. He was born in Stone
So that
Mountain,
means
Georgia.
on this show he died in 95 at the age of 45. Is that what you said?
Yep, at the age of 45.
Christ, that means at this show he was only 37 years old and he looked like that.
Yeah.
God.
Jesus Christ.
I don't look too bad for 44. Yeah.
He is 5'11", 477 pounds.
He was wider than he was tall.
Like I feel like fucking Tony Atlas when I look at myself now and I grab a glimpse in the mirror. Like I went to take a shit the other day after eating fucking Arby's. It was like, Jesus Christ, I look like a fucking slug.
He got up and he was like,
We'll call it the Blackwell effect.
Yeah.
Picture Jerry Blackwell at 37 and you doing good, my friend.
Yeah. I look like fucking Lou Ferrigno and Arnold Schwarzenegger in that Pumping Iron 78 video or whatever.
good shit, pal.
The less said about this match, the better. While Casey tries to get involved. Go ahead, Mark. I don't have a lot of thoughts on it, so if you have thoughts, share them. Because I will
say for as far as big guy wrestlers during this era, Blackwell was over as fuck.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. He was over with the AWA crowd. I don't know why, but he was absolutely.
I guess because he looked like everybody's country cousin, but I mean, legit, he was over. Like I was shocked, like just to see the reaction and the pop of the crowd for Blackwell. They were like, the other guy, nah.
I think I heard it. I think I heard a chant in the background while he was wrestling. They were like, "Insulin, insulin."
But if you notice, in this day and era, like of wrestling that we're talking about, they always had the foreign guy versus the country guy. You know what I'm saying? Like either it be a patriot or just every amendment loving Southern redneck, and that's to me that's what Jerry Blackwell was. Like he looked like my drunk uncle that at a bonfire, that just got in there. I'll wrestle him.
I'll wrestle that commie.
He doesn't like America.
Yeah. He's like DJ Peterson already got to wrestle that Japanese Nazi.
Give me the guy from the Soviet Union.
Well, that match, like I said, happened. Blackwell went over Boris Zukov. And then the main event of the show is Russ Francis, who, frankly, I'm not a football guy. I'm just not. I'm not a football guy. The only sport I watch other than pro wrestling is hockey. I'm going to be honest. I don't watch football. So most football players, I know the really famous ones because they're on TV. And then I know anybody associated with wrestling. That's what I know of football. And all I know of Russ Francis is he was in the Battle Royal at WrestleMania 2.
And he played for the 49ers.
And yes, and that's why he's in this match in San Francisco, obviously. And he's teaming with Jimmy Snuka, known dirtbag Jimmy Snuka, but a wrestling legend.
I will say this: watching this match, I was surprised because a man of his build, Jimmy Snuka was fucking great. Like doing the whole leapfrogs and all that over the guys, and for a man of his build, you didn't see stuff like that.
Snuka is much like Benoit.
Yep.
Where if you can get past his
undoing,
yes, if you can get past his demons and just the shitty things that he did, I mean, I dare anybody. And I know his promos are nonsensical, but that was part of his fucking charm, All the people in TV land. Jimmy Snuka was over, man, and people loved him. and you can't deny it. And you can't deny that he was innovative in the ring, and you can't deny that he was over.
I was talking to somebody about this the other day at work, that it seems like the shittiest human beings are like the most creative and talented people. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like Michael Jackson, shitty human being, right?
Yeah.
Great performer.
James Brown, shitty human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great performer.
Vince McMahon.
Vince
Shitty
McMahon,
human being.
creative,
Great performer.
great performer, talented mind, shitty human being. Bill Cosby, say what you want to say about Bill Cosby, but that, like, Bill Cosby was a great stand-up comedian. Shitty human being. Jimmy Snuka is the same way. And it's like
The key.
I'm watching this show, and then I see Buxumoff, and I see Jimmy Snuka, and I'm like, oh, this is the only time in the world that you can be like, oh, Jimmy Snuka is not the worst fucking person
on the show.
And the key word you use there is human being. And the reason I say that is because if you're a celebrity or if you're in something like entertainment or sports, the awful things that you do have a magnifying glass on them. There are plenty of shitty human beings that are retail workers. There are plenty of shitty human beings that are construction workers. There are plenty of shitty human beings that are postal workers. But everybody has a profession. So when you have a profession where you're in the public, the fact that you're a shitty human being, even though you're good at your job, gets a bigger magnifying glass on it.
Yeah, and I think too that's where people like not saying okay, overlook everything that he's done, but if you're gonna look at it, don't look at it as okay, all this shit that he done pre to that, like it wasn't nothing, because before he lost his shit, Jimmy Snuka was great. And I'm gonna go on a limb here and say, had it not been for Jimmy Snuka, that Piper may not have had as much of a heater as he had. You know what I'm saying? Because when with him hitting Snuka with that coconut and all, it really elevated the whole feud.
And if it wouldn't have been for Snuka's transgressions, he would have been right next to Hulk Hogan during the expansion as the big baby face. As a matter of fact, before they got their hands on Hogan, they were considering him to be. Vince was considering him to be the guy to try to lead his expansion.
Well, yeah, and it was gonna. I don't know if this is dumb or out of the realm of what I'm saying, but it was there was a reason that Snuka was in the corner at 1. It wasn't supposed to be Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. It was supposed to be Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Snuka.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then he murdered that chick, and all right, we gotta not do it that way.
Change lanes here.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this match is Jimmy Snuka and Russ Francis against the Terrorist.
Yeah.
Who was actually played this night by Brian Knobbs.
You wouldn't guess it at the shape.
No, but they were still pretty. They were still pretty slim
He's
at this point.
probably in his 20s.
And the Mercenary, played by Ron Fuller, on this show, which my only note, because the match is pretty nondescript and I didn't have a lot of notes on it, but the Mercenary has a nice beak on his mask. I was like,
man.
To me, it looked like, remember Beetlejuice? Remember the Beetlejuice movie?
Yeah, when Baldwin pulls out his nose.
When Gina Davis and Baldwin pull out their nose. That's what he looked like. He looked like the fucking Beetlejuice thing. What the fuck is going on?
He should have come out to shake, Sinora, shake your body down.
Shake, 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 Brian Knobs. That was Ron Fuller and Brian Knobs.
Said
Yes,
no one
Ron
ever.
Fuller and Brian Knobs. as
No
the
one ever
mercenary
said
and the
shake
terrorist.
Brian Knobs.
Don't shake Brian Knobs.
Oh shit, that was good.
And
What
you definitely
falls
don't want to
Knobs?
shake Jerry Sags.
What shakes out of Brian Knobs if you shake him? Like what falls out?
Does your knob get polished?
Oh my.
Well, only if you're Hogan.
That's nasty, boy.
Like if you hit a fucking pinata knobs with a fucking bat, like what falls out of it?
Probably
Percocets?
cocaine.
Percocets and cocaine.
And a ham.
Is it
Pork chop
salted?
grease.
Is it salted?
My bad. That was in bad taste.
No, pork chop grease tastes all right. You know what? I got to tell you something. All right. Well, I mean, Mark will probably be like, whatever. It's because he's from the South.
What's that got to do with the price of tea in China?
Not a goddamn thing. But okay, so Mark, my wife's from Kentucky. Okay,
Where everybody's kin. Okay, I got you.
When she met. Okay, I don't know how this happens, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Southern thing, but when I eat green beans, even when I eat green beans, it's unhealthy.
Green beans are gross.
Did you have bacon in them?
I like green beans. Yeah, listen, she makes green beans in bacon fat.
Yep.
Ooh, god damn it, that's good.
You're right. It is a Southern thing. I've never seen that anywhere else on the geographic.
And I mean, me and Aaron are from the ghetto, so I mean, we grew up around like soul food.
Right.
But when her and I first got together, and then she was like, she made green beans and bacon fat, and I was like, I think I love you.
I don't know how you fuck up bacon more than putting fucking green beans in it.
Mm. I love green beans and I love bacon.
It's a strange combination, but Aaron, it's like say you took Eugene and put him with the Great Khali. It's strange, but it would work.
Eat a lot of vegetables.
I do, but yeah, like he said, I pictured like Khali and Eugene doing the Indian dance.
Yeah.
Like corn's a vegetable, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah, but I don't eat corn. I refuse to eat canned corn.
Well, it doesn't matter how much you chew it; it's going to come out whole, anyways.
Yeah, right. It reassembles itself in your gut. But I won't eat canned corn because, and Aaron, I don't know if you remember or not, but it seemed to me like when we were growing up, with every meal, our mom served us canned corn.
Yeah,
or some kind of fucking corn. I will not eat corn. Like
corn is good.
My wife will be like, I'm going to make corn. What other vegetable would you like me to make? Because she knows I will not eat I'm not eating corn. I ate enough. I ate enough between the ages of 3 and 17. I've had enough corn in my life.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever had the what they call elotes, the Mexican street corn?
No.
That is good shit. It will change your whole outlook on corn again.
A lot of like I'll eat corn. I don't want to say I won't eat corn. Like I'll eat corn if it's in something, like if it's in a chowder or it's in a soup. But if you're just gonna give me some corn to scoop up with my spoon and eat it, I'm not eating it. I'm not eating it, and I won't eat it on a cob. I'm not gonna eat it creamed. I'm not gonna eat it on a cob. I'm not gonna eat it on a no. Yeah,
corn's great. But if somebody's like, eat this cauliflower, I'd be like, fuck off. I will throw you down the steps if you try to.
I don't like cauliflower raw.
Well, we put fucking cheese on it. Like, fuck you. You just fucked up cheese.
I don't mind cooked cauliflower. I don't like raw cauliflower because it's like it turns into sand the minute it gets in your mouth.
Or if somebody's like, oh, eat this broccoli.
So I love broccoli.
I will slit your throat if you try to give me fucking broccoli.
I love broccoli and cucumbers and tomatoes, especially
cucumbers are disgusting.
No,
here
they're
comes
not.
here comes our first FCC fine right here because Aaron said he's gonna slit somebody's throat.
Yeah, God damn it.
We got a terroristic threat right
You should
there.
give me a fucking cucumber. I will fucking murder you. That's
What?
just a baby pickle. I don't
Listen,
like fucking pickles.
cucumbers, I would disagree on. Broccoli, I have to disagree on. The cauliflower, I'm on the same page.
And pickles are the worst. Like pickles are like the Al Qaeda of food. Like if you put them on you can put them on anything and it just ruins all of it. You could pick off a cauliflower. Like if here's this great steak with cauliflower we gave you. I can pick off the cauliflower and throw it in a trash can. And I won't taste it. But the minute you put a pickle on something, it invades everything.
It's literally like a cucumber soaked in vinegar and a brine of different seasoning.
Pickles are the worst. Fucking hate all of it. What were we
Hold on a
talking?
second.
What we got?
I'm writing down timestamps because I literally have to edit out everything that we just talked about.
Why?
Because you can't say murder and slit someone's throat on YouTube. That's why. Fuck's sake.
I didn't say a specific person.
It doesn't matter. Hold on.
Well, where can we post this?
I mean, I can have it on the
Facebook.
podcast. I can have it on the podcast, but I can't have it where decent people are watching.
Where do people watch this?
I don't fucking know yet. I'm starting YouTube. I don't want it to get taken down the first video I put up. For Christ's sake.
We need to challenge.
I'm thinking like a fucking businessman here.
We need to challenge our listening audience. If you're decent, reply in the comments. See how many hits we get.
Are you panted right now? Like, do you have pants?
All right, shut up.
Are you panted?
And that is our review of AW. Oh fuck. Nick Francis.
Is that how you
from
ask
the
somebody
Asylum.
wearing pants?
Russ Francis and Jimmy Snuka go over the terrorist and the mercenary in this matchup. If you're watching on YouTube, listen to the podcast and you'll hear some murderous vegetable talk. But anyway, that is it for this week's edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Guys, overall, I'm gonna just go out on a limb here, 1 to 5. Rate this show.
3.
2.
I'll give it a 3, just because Bockwinkle and Hennig and the whole Sherry and Medusa and the Rockers 6-man tag match was pretty decent. Like the rest of the card, I could give a crap less about, but those 3 matches, I'll give them each 1 point, just because they were over.
And I gave it a 2.5, and I guess I didn't rate Sherry and Medusa. But I actually gave a little credit to the DJ Peterson Super Ninja match.
Yeah, it was decent
because I think I liked that more than you guys did. But yeah, I gave it a 2.5. I wasn't expecting to give it that higher rating. Honestly, it was like AWA 87. This is going to be a shit show, and it really wasn't awful. There was enough good to make it a decent show.
Yeah, they had good, bad, good, bad, good, bad.
The commentary stunk. Some of the booking stunk. Buck Zumhoff's a demon. Jimmy Snuka's a murderer.
In reality, are we really watching this for the commentary?
For comedic purposes, yes.
Unless we're like talking about Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross team, or Dusty and Zbyszko and who was it, Mongo and all them in WCW, like I could give a crap less about the commentary. I'm watching for the quality of match.
I did figure out something from this show, that if I can get into a club and I can start putting my music together, I know what I'm going to call myself. DJ Super Ninja.
That's great.
And if I don't see anybody, like if I can't if I view a person and I can't see them in any way below their torso, I'm going to ask them, are you panted?
If you are, Mr. Go.
That's what you need. You need a sidekick. You get DJ Super Ninja, and then you need Mr. Go on as your
Mr.
sidekick.
Go's like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, he's your Little John hype man.
He's like, what? Go. Okay. All right. That being said, Mark, any parting words for our listeners this week?
Keep listening. If you watch this too, I'm sorry. Other than the 3 matches that I mentioned in our rating, really didn't care for the rest of it, but get a point apiece for the good matches. So,
Aaron?
I probably have something to say. Just thanks for listening to all the shows, and we're apparently putting this on YouTube, so you guys missed like 20 minutes of fucking gold.
Yeah, you missed terrible vegetable talk, but that's okay. Listen to the podcast, the audio podcast, and you'll be able to hear it.
go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you'll be in on it.
Boom.
And if you try to block this on YouTube or whatever, stick a cucumber up your fucking butthole.
God, there we go. We gotta edit that out.
Maybe not. There might be cucumbers up the butthole tutorials on YouTube.
Oh, I'm
Never
sure
know.
there is.
But anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us and encourage you to, as this show goes to air, the YouTube page is active. However, I do not have any videos on it, but I will within the next couple of days. And we are going to be I'm going to be doing some things on Twitch, and Reliving the Extreme will have not this show yet, but Reliving the Extreme will have a Patreon coming up soon. And other than that, just a lot of expansion.
A lot of Patreon shit we can figure out for Reliving the Extreme.
A lot of expansion coming for the network, the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network in the coming year. A lot of things we're going to do, a lot of things I'm going to try. But just the main thing is share it. If you enjoy our shows, if you enjoy what we do, let people know about it. As we offer things to you, i.e. YouTube, it costs you nothing to support. Other than a Patreon, which again, that's not this show. That's getting into other things, but
We can't
cost
get a
you
Patreon
nothing
because we can't wrestle.
it costs you nothing to click like and subscribe to a YouTube page.
Yeah,
literally not a dime.
Just spread it and accept it.
Like they say in prison, spread it and accept it.
Yeah.
Or like Zoomhoff probably said once or twice.
Yeah. I'm your friendly bunkie. Just spread it and accept it.
That's probably what he's saying now.
No, he's spreading it and accepting it now.
He's spreading it and accepting it.
That's what I'm saying.
Buck is taking black dick in his ass every single day, and he deserves all of it. Like, I hope he has no.
It's like the I think.
I hope he gets.
Hold on. Because it's one of my favorite jokes ever.
No pillow.
Hold on. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite jokes ever. I think it might be Nick DiPaolo. And correct me if I'm wrong. There's a roast, and Nick DiPaolo says that one of the female comedians on the dais has had more black dick in her than a urinal at the Apollo.
Yeah, he's talking about Lisa Lampanelli.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is now Buck Zumhoff.
Buck Zumhoff is literally in a match with Big Bubba Rogers right now.
Big Bubba.
Fuck you, Buck Zumhoff.
Well, now that we finished this thing off as raunchy as we can, we're going to sign off, ladies and gentlemen. And next week, we're going to start the episodes of the We Can't Wrestle podcast discussing the 2002 We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Fame, of which Mark and Aaron were both on the panel this year. The two biggest vote getters, just I already announced the class, so it's fine. But just as a spoiler for who the two biggest, most vote getters were this year, the Road Warriors and Roddy Piper got the most amount of votes in the voting. And the thing I'm the most salty about, and as we do episodes discussing the Hall of Fame, I will be lecturing like I'm a pretentious asshole, is I don't know how we've done this thing for 3 years yet, and Ricky Dozan is not in the Hall of Fame.
Somebody might be dozing on Dozan.
It was Roddy and the Roadies.
Yes.
The biggest votes.
Yes.
I think Roddy was on my list, right?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. But Roddy Piper.
I'd rather have this bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Right. The Road Warriors were the Road Warriors and Piper got the most votes, and then I think the third most votes, Kerry Bonner, was Shawn Michaels. But anyway, we'll get into that next time around as we begin the episodes talking about the Hall of Fame. That being said, we're going to sign off for this week, and I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see everybody next week here on the We Can't Wrestle